it's Betsy from Cuttin Corners Vinyl, and today I have a different kind of video for you. So, like many of you, I have gone down the TikTok rabbit hole. There's so much content on there, it's kind of crazy. And that's where today's video came from. I've started to see lots of videos on hacks to sublimate on different types of HTV. So I've done the legwork for you, and I'm going to show you what you're supposed to do and explain why, and also try to explain some of the big no-nos I kept hearing. So if that sounds interesting, keep watching. So we are going to start off with the glow in the dark. So I am using Luminous Flex by Specialty Materials. My heat press is preheated to 375 degrees with a medium firm pressure. So if you notice, whenever I looked in between the layers of my shirt, that is butcher paper. It is an uncoated white paper. You do not want to use parchment paper. You do not want to use Teflon sheets. Now, I've said in the past to use parchment paper, but you don't want to do that. You don't want anything that has a waxy finish, because what happens with sublimation, that ink turns into a gas. Now, you want something that's uncoated. You can use regular copy paper or any type of paper that is white and uncoated. Reason being, because when that ink turns into a gas, you want something to catch that leftover ink, so it doesn't go into your shirt, so it doesn't go into your press, so it doesn't mess things up. Now, if you noticed before I lifted the carrier sheet off of the vinyl, I rubbed it down with a cooling stone, so that way it makes it easier and faster to lift between layers. Now, if you see that my hands are shaky, I do have epilepsy, so I do have some issues. Bear with me. And I'm also using butcher paper on top. Now, I do have my things linked in the description, whether it be the Amazon store. All of my links are in the description box, so if you're interested in purchasing anything that I'm using, it is down below. You don't have to if you don't want to. Also, I am using a Sawgrass SG400. That is what I use to print all of my sublimation designs. The inks I am using are the Sublijet HD inks, and my printer settings, I'm using the Text Print R print quality on high. I will not use a converted printer, and if you notice, I have the Koala brand paper. There are a few reasons why I will not use a converted printer. One, you do not get warranty with it. In the long run, in my opinion, you don't save any money. Two, I don't have to sit there and fool with settings. I know every single time I print something, I am going to get a quality print every single time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what it looks like. As you can tell, it's not exactly perfect. The colors look great. That's what it looks like under regular light. Again, it's very difficult to do close-ups with lighting and all that. And that's what it looks like whenever it's in the dark. Doesn't that look beautiful? The color I used was the neon pink as well. So you can use the colors as well. You don't have to use just the traditional yellow. So the next one we are using is the Glitter Chameleon. So for the Glitter Chameleon, I have it set to 390, and I am using the red. Now, for myself personally, when working with the Chameleon colors, since there's not really a white shade, I tend to stick with like a one color design on them, because I tend to think that the busier the vinyl is that you're placing on it, it's harder to see it, if that makes sense. But as you can see, that Cool Touch cooling stone is a lifesaver. It just makes things so much easier. I do have another heat press coming in next week, which will make it easier to do these types of overhead filming, and make it easier for me to line up when I'm trying to do this with lighting. It just will make things a whole lot simpler. And if you noticed on the glow in the dark, on the back of my Koala ink paper, I was using the Subliflex silicone transfer material. That is something Specialty Material has that is made to work with sublimation. Now, a lot of transfer tapes are not like the carrier sheets that are on your regular vinyl are polyester based. So you can't use them with sublimation prints because they will absorb the ink. But that is actually made for sublimation. They make it to go with their sublimation, like the prints that you run through your sublimation printer. So you can use that. And it's also nice because, as you can see, I will take and run my sublimation prints through my Cricut to give them exact cuts. Now, I don't do it with all of it, but as you can see on the ones that I do, it makes it very easy to line up. Doesn't that look gorgeous though? Absolutely stunning. So, the next one that we are moving on to, this is the Frosty Clear. Now, I have two different versions of Frosty Clear that I'm working with. One that we are doing with the white underneath and one with just on a white shirt because I wanted to show you both methods. And for the Frosty Clear, we are heating this at 380 degrees for 30 seconds. Now, with most of these vinyls, I am heating the vinyl themselves at the same thing I'm sublimating them at. And at each time when I'm heating the vinyl, I'm heating for just a couple of seconds, just enough to be stuck down. And then I am heating it with the sublimation on top for the full amount of time. But I'm cooling it really quickly using the cooling stone. And if I am doing an underbase, and you can really kind of see with this one, you can see that my underbase, if you noticed around the outline, that the underbase of white is smaller than the Frosty Clear because that kind of gives it a little bit of wiggle room. So if things aren't exact, it makes it a whole lot easier to line up, if that makes sense. And that is always something I kind of recommend, is giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room. Because giving yourself, like, especially if you're doing things that have a little bit of polyester in them, making your print a little bit smaller on your vinyl, it really does help. Now, as you can see, it looks a little funny here, but once you get your print on it and it's all smoothed out, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, one of the things you'll notice, because this design has a little bit of distressing, I walk away from this for a second and I go and trim it a little bit closer, so that way I can make sure it lines up perfectly. Now, one of the things, and I didn't finish this thought earlier, another thing about having a converted ink printer is if you buy like a secondhand Epson printer and someone has ran other inks through it, you try to put sublimation inks through it, it will never work properly, just so you know. That's kind of how it works. You will never be able to get tech support on it. It will not be under warranty if you run other inks through it. Sometimes saving $5 in the beginning costs you $500 in the long run. You do what you want, but these are things that I have learned doing this professionally. Now, I'm not doing this professionally any longer, but I did for a very, very long time. And again, I don't know everything. And I have said the wrong things and I have made mistakes. But I do know a lot. But look how beautiful this looks. Isn't that absolutely stunning? So, that is on the mat. You can see that everything looks perfect now. So, the next one we're going to see is the mat without the white underneath. So again, the t-shirt guide that I'm using is also listed in the description box down below. All of the t-shirts and things like that I've either had before I closed my shop, I've picked up at Walmart or Target. I've ordered some of them off of Amazon. Nothing absolutely major. So, And you can kind of see, like, I reuse the butcher paper, like, unless it's got ink on it, and you will be able to tell if it's got ink on it because you'll see shadowing. Unless it's got ink on it, I will continue to reuse it. And if it's got ink on it, don't worry about it. You can use it like if you're painting and stuff like that. It's always, always, always reusable. So, trust me, don't just throw it away. Now, another thing I will remind you of is your heat press may require some finagling from the settings that I'm telling you. So like the Frosty Clear, 380 at 30 seconds. That's what works on my heat press with my paper, with my printer. So your heat press may work different, so you may have to adjust, but these are some generalized settings to go off of, if that makes sense. Again, I'm using the Sublifex transfer tape, and you can reuse that too. Like, I reuse stuff as much as possible. So again, and if you look, I'm not sure if you've used specialty materials before, but if you get one of their product guides, and I have their info linked down below, and a lot of times they'll send you the product guides, for the vinyls that they have already approved for sublimation, they have their recommended instructions for sublimation in their books, just in case you're wondering. But look how beautiful that is. Isn't that gorgeous? And you can use this process with so many different things. But I've seen people who will take and do this onto parchment paper and then put it onto a shirt. And again, that's not the best way to do things. And I'm just saying that the reason why is that's just, you're going to mess something up. You're going to get blowout. You can mess up the integrity of the vinyl. So now we're on to the Deco Film Brilliant Chameleon. I am using the shade green. So this requires a heavy pressure. If you're not using a heavy enough pressure, you will get wrinkling with this. And this one is 390 for 30 seconds. Now, this film is more of a plasticky feeling film, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think. Okay, so it has more of like that cellophane feel. Now, it is a thick film. It's not as thick as the Glitter Chameleon, but it is a thick film. Again, you have to have a heavy pressure with this. You see my dog underneath me? I have helpers. That's Honey Girl. She's so sweet. But now I'm going to line up the top layer. And I'm kind of trying to show you a few different methods, like with the silicone transfer sheet, the Teflon tape, just to make sure you see that there are a few different methods to the madness. I mean, you don't have to use just what I'm saying, but also make sure you're doing your research, because, you know, sometimes people will say to do something one way, and it's not always the safest, most cost-effective method. Because, you know, as I said, like converting a printer, like I saw someone the other day in one of the sublimation groups who bought an EcoTank printer, and they bought what they thought was sublimation inks, and they weren't. And now they're out $500 for the printer, $600 for the printer they bought, $100 for the inks, and they can't use it. So yeah, you need to make sure you're getting what you're supposed to, because it does matter. But so make sure you do your research. And I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. There's so many people out there that will give you good advice. But look how cute this is. I love, love, love how this looks. And then there is an up close picture so you can see. And that's one of the things I did try to do, is take up close pictures so you can see what they actually look like, because trying to take a picture of them on the heat press. So now we're on to Glitterflex Ultra 2. So we are using the rainbow opaque white. So as you can see, it has like a rainbow glitter effect to it. So this we're going to heat at 400 degrees for 60 seconds. Now, one thing I can definitely tell you with like the glitters is you're going to want to do something that doesn't have a lot of fine detail to it, because if you do, it will look kind of a little grainy. It doesn't come out super clear. It will look a little shadowed because it does have a texture to it. So I always recommend, if you're going to do glitter, do something that has big, thick lines. It looks better. It's just a recommendation. But it does turn out really, really, really beautiful when you do it that way. Glitter is always something that I really enjoy. But as I was saying, there are so many people that love doing this kind of thing. It's just, make sure you're doing your research. Don't just jump out there and take anybody's word for it. Do your research, because a lot of times people get misinformation and then they share the misinformation. It's kind of, you remember the old game of telephone? It's that. And, you got a lot of people sharing the wrong thing. But yeah. Look how cute this comes out. And you'll see in the close-up kind of what I mean about making sure that you're using something that's a little bold, because it can come out grainy. Now, again, this is not perfectly lined up because it is more difficult to do when I'm doing this on camera. But you see what I mean about how where it looks a little blurry. If you tried to do something that was fine detailed, it will look even more blurry. Now, last but certainly not least is the Deco Film. Now, there are a couple of colors in this that you cannot do, which is, I think, the silver and gold, but I am using the Brilliant Rainbow, which isn't the opaque. They have an opaque and they have the one that isn't opaque. So I am putting down a base layer of the Thermoflex Plus white. So again, I'm using my cooling stone. That thing is a miracle worker. You can use whatever you want. The one I have is from Amazon. I think it was like 20 bucks. They have them all over the place. This shirt design came to me because it's been cold everywhere. And I kept thinking of bring it on. So that's kind of how my mind works. I kind of get in this mindset, and like pop culture references come. I don't know if I'm the only person who's like that, but yeah, that's just how I am. So for this one, it is, again, the temperature's 390 for 30 seconds. So this is a pretty quick and easy process. But look how cool this looks. And for some reason, I was thinking, the reason why this one got this design, and I was thinking, icy, this reminded me of like snowflakes. Again, my mind, kind of weird. It goes that way. But hopefully y'all found this video helpful, because like, whenever I started this, I was like, oh, this is going to be simple. This is going to be easy. But this is the longest I have ever spent on a video. I have spent well over 100 hours on this, making sure I did all of the research. I have tried different methods. As I said, any of these types of plasticky materials, you need all kinds of pressure on, let me tell you, because if not, they want to wrinkle. And I played with it to make sure like everything was how they wanted to go, make sure that, because, and another thing, if you have an automatic press, or if you let your press pop up, you need to make sure your designs are taped down really well. If not, your designs will shadow, which is a pain in the butt. Very, very badly. Now, if you notice, whenever I take an up-close picture of this, it is off, and that is my fault. I didn't get it down the way that I wanted it to, but look how pretty it looks. But as I said, hopefully you like this. If you do, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and we will see y'all later.